Hey all, here OS Reviews. In this video, we're taking a quick look at the Google Nest Hub 2nd generation smart display. It's not completely new to the market, but ever since Google released the Pixel tablet a couple months back with a now optional dock that you can pop it onto, basically turning it into a larger version of something like this, I thought it might be interesting to revisit. So this is combining essentially a smart speaker similar to Amazon's Echo devices. You're able to ask questions, set timers and alarms, weather information, give you news briefings using the Hey Google command. But it also has that display part that you can use to watch YouTube videos even, as well as some Netflix content just by putting it in your kitchen. You're able to check out recipes, for example, and perhaps have another way of more easily navigating things and controlling smart lights and other appliances that are connected to Wi-Fi and also the Google Home ecosystem. This 2nd generation model also uses the proximity light sensor to automatically detect your room's lighting and change the color temperature of the display automatically, and it even claims to use some of those motion sensors to track sleep if you put it by your bed at night, which should feel more comfortable compared to wearing a smartwatch. You can kind of feel on your wrist as you're sleeping, so this might be more non-intrusive, and you can also use it to activate smart cameras, security cameras that are again connected to your Google account, even though this model doesn't have a front-facing webcam. So unlike some of the larger smart home displays, as well as ones from Amazon, you can't use it directly for video conferencing. You can also use the proximity sensors for gesture navigation if your hands are dirty, if you're cooking, for example, to play and pause music just by waving over it, which is a pretty neat idea. And otherwise, just like other smart displays, it does need to be connected to power at all times to be operated. So that is one difference compared to the Pixel tablet. So there is no built-in rechargeable battery, keep it in mind, and there is, again, a 7-inch display, which is going to be a little bit more compact. And the 2nd generation model actually comes in 3 colorways, primarily in the base speaker region. The fabric material has kind of a slightly darker shade if you want more of a gray, although keep in mind if you are in the kitchen and cooking, if you have dough nearby, it might get a little bit more easily attracted to the material. You can also find a kind of wider charcoal shade, as well as a bluish shade as well if you want something a little bit more funky. And of course, as a Google device, it syncs with your Google Calendar. So if you are an Android smartphone user, it just integrates all of that information into this one ecosystem, giving you a quick status at a glance of your day ahead. Now, the device here retails for $100, but often goes on sale for less than that. I've seen it floating for around 60 to 70 bucks commonly, so just be on the lookout for that. And also want to say a special thank you to Lowe's, actually, for providing this unit for review. Although for full disclosure, they're seeing this video at the same time that you guys are as well, and it's still going to be our honest opinions about this product. They just want you guys to know that aside from the typical lawn and gardening products that they sell, you can also find other electronics and appliances these days on Lowe's as well. So just kind of a quick footnote there, and their pricing is more or less competitive with other retailers like Best Buy and Amazon. I think it'll be really interesting to see, though, if in the coming days Google might release some software updates to the model to have Bard integrated inside. So that is one of their large language models that is a rival to OpenAI's ChatGPT that can more intelligently summarize information. Right now, it's still using the legacy Google Assistant, just like on Amazon's Alexa. It's more of a pre-programmed voice assistant as opposed to being more intelligent in creating or generating new context. So we'll have to see if those products get merged together. Now, one of the other modes that it's able to do is actually simulate a sunrise alarm. So the display will actually get progressively brighter, similar to a wake-up lamp, to simulate the sun, to wake you up using not only the sound, but also light with the display. It has built-in Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, and this model has Chromecast built on it as well, which is another upgrade compared to the 1st generation model, meaning that you're able to send video content over from your phone, for example, onto this small display. Of course, it's not going to be as immersive as on a TV, but it's also an interesting software capability if you're trying to share something very quickly in the kitchen, for example. Now down below we have, of course, the smart display itself, and there's also going to be a quick start guide as well as the power adapter. It is using a barrel plug, which is, again, not too problematic since you're not really commonly plugging it in and out, since it's just going to be sitting there. It has a decent cable length made out of this silicone material. we can tell that it does really resemble a smaller tablet, something like a Fire 7, for example, attached permanently onto this fabric speaker dock that also reminds me of some of their Google Home Mini smart speakers in the past. There is that manual kill switch to mute the microphone. There's also a volume rocker on the side. And there's also a silicone pad at the bottom that prevents it from sliding around on a surface or a desk. And that's it. There are no adjustable angles or tilt to the display, though, that you may find on some more expensive models. Now, the screen itself otherwise has kind of clean-looking white bezels. It's not the smallest, but still respectable, I'd say. And up top, you'll find the proximity as well as motion sensor and also dual microphones. And as the instructions state, we need the Google Home app either on iOS or for Android, and then go over and tap on Add. For a couple of seconds, we should be able to see the Nest Hub found. We'll tap on Yes, and then scan a QR code that is generated there on the screen to kind of proceed and link automatically with our Google account. So you don't have to sign in again on the touchscreen of the smart display. We're going to select where we have this. Let's just say bedroom for now. And afterwards, it'll prompt us to connect to the Wi-Fi network. It will be able to update itself automatically with OTA software updates to improve on the functionality. And you can also set up the voice match, which is the aforementioned part where it's only going to recognize you if you're talking to it. So if it hears the trigger word spoken by other family members, it may not react, for example, quite as easily. So you can decrease the number of false positives by having that voice print technology activated. And the final stage of setup is also allowing us to turn on or off a couple of other prompts, for example, tracking sleep, listening to music, things like that. You can uncheck these boxes if you're not using it for those specific services. So here's a preview of sleep sensing, and it's going to, again, allow you to do this if you place it by the side of your bed at night in a position like so the sensor can be facing towards you. It also uses the microphone to apparently track if you're coughing or snoring. The data is also synced with your Google Fit account for additional analytics, and you can save that as well if you're using smartwatches to consolidate the information together. And this can also be used as a smart photo frame or display for you to push over content from your Google Photos account, for example, to automatically cycle through there in the background, which is quite cool. Or you can also choose it to display art gallery, kind of other images taken by professionals, or choose just a full screen clock if you prefer as well in different formats, including just Word as well as analog, different styles that all look actually quite attractive. The default music service that you want to use when you tell it to play back a certain song can also be changed. If you have a Spotify, Apple Music, or Pandora subscription, you can sign in. By default, it uses YouTube Music. We're going to tap on OK there as well. And you can also link radio services if you wanted to play back something from Sirius XM, for example. However, you do have to have an account and subscription active to use some of those services. So next, it's going to go over to watching video content. And then similarly, you can sign in with your Netflix, Hulu, so on and so forth account to stream back videos directly on the display. And again, live TV services can be available on here as well as other apps. So here we have it. There is also kind of a calling and messaging service that you can set up if desired. And that's using Google Meet, formerly known as Hangouts, to place those calls over the internet. So the app in the future just allows us to check if the device is online or not. In this case, it's the bedroom display. If we tap on it here, we can also control the volume directly from our phone, as well as cast the screen of your device. After a split second or so, you have just a smaller view of what the phone's display here is showing. But in the horizontal view, it becomes significantly larger, much more comfortable, in fact, to interact with. It's not going to be touch-enabled, though, so you can still have to rely on your phone itself for navigation purposes. Let's say you want to just share a quick news article from your phone over to the device for reading purposes and sharing with other folks at a kitchen table. It might be a little bit easier, as you can tell there. And in similar fashion, if you're trying to do just a little bit of light gaming, you can also trigger that experience just by using the smart display here. The sound is actually coming out from the display hub, as you can hear, which is a little bit more immersive sounding.
And just as it helps you wind down for the night, Nest Hub can gently and naturally wake you up in the morning with a sunrise alarm that gradually rouses you out of sleep with warm light and a curated set of peaceful sounds. Maybe you're not quite feeling the urge to hop out of bed. Just hit snooze or wave a hand. Once you're up, Nest Hub will greet you with a sleep summary that focuses on the schedule, duration, and quality of your rest. And as soon as you're ready to take on the day, you can have a quick look at what's ahead with traffic, weather, and news.
And from here, we can also swipe over to the right to take a look at just the clock mode, showing a very simple time information that we can also exit out of just by swiping down, using some of those gestures on the side of the bezels of the device. The display quality also seems to be more than good enough. It gets decently bright as long as it's not in direct sunlight, but since it's indoor use anyways, it doesn't really matter. It is a bit on the glossy side though, but really aside from that, colors look good, as well as sharpness too for just a 7-inch panel. It is fully laminated as well. If you go into more advanced settings, you can find out a little bit more info of the network it's connected to, as well as kind of the theme it's in. It can cycle into light versus dark theme, just like on an Android smartphone as well. And everything else we can again control just by using our voice with Google Assistant. And under more advanced settings, you can even tweak the EQ of the speaker to have it more bass heavy versus treble heavy, depending on the type of music you're listening to. You are able to turn on or off different notifications that are, again, connected to your Google account. You'll see that pop up on the screen as well as weather alerts, air quality alerts can also show up on the device if you want to. Even the slideshow speed, if you're playing back Google Photos, can be customized. The ambient light sensor also seems to be effective enough. So here's a quick demo of that, just placing a flash kind of over the panel. You can see the screen also progressively get brighter and a little bit more yellowish as well, similar to the LED flash. But if we take the light there away, after a couple seconds, it becomes a bit more neutral / dim. And if we swipe over from the right of the smart display, you'll be able to see a little bit more information at a glance. For example, control other smart appliances that are connected again to your Google account, including routines. So at daytime, when you wake up versus bedtime, it can automatically say turn off certain lights or keep others at an X percentage that you can set up so that in the future you just have to click once to go into that particular profile. So saving you a bit of time. Set up alarms, so on and so forth. There's also kind of this experimental mode called a weather frog that's going to be more of an animated wallpaper that dances around the screen based on the conditions of the surroundings that you're in. So if it's more rainy, it's also going to show kind of that rainy animation. We can swipe over again to discover functions that are kind of automatically generated by Google Assistant. So you can measure different units, find a funny meme, as well as nearby restaurants, things like roll a dice. So if we tap on these tiles, in fact, it should then react accordingly.
It's 1.
So there it is. And also nearby restaurants.
I found a few places near you.
So we have a couple of recommendations that then show up, as well as their reviews down below as well. So it seems to be working nicely. Again, there are going to be moments of slight hesitation, and the screen's animation isn't always buttery smooth, but it still, for the most part, doesn't really get in the way of you using the product. So here's another example.
This is a cow.
So there we go. And also an image is then shown. And here's an example of the nature sounds being played back using the relaxing sound tile. Again, takes kind of a split second for it to load and then stream it back using the internet. It will randomly cycle through different options, or you can select a specific track, controlling it from your phone. We can also set up a sleep timer for it to then stop the audio after X minutes, for example. And similarly, you can take a look at your weather information just by tapping along here. Again, it takes a split second.
It's 61 degrees and sunny. Tonight, the forecast is around 53 with scattered showers.
For some of the information to load, but not bad for what it is. It has a bit of animation work going on as well, just makes it feel a little bit more interactive. And also all the specific applications that the smart display is capable of running at this moment in time. So things like Google Calendar, as well as weather information, again, Netflix, YouTube, search using the assistant. Those are all some examples that you can expect. So if we kind of toggle it down below here, as well as timers. And although Google Assistant is not going to be as intelligent as Bard, as well as ChatGPT in terms of synthesizing information, it will also occasionally give you a web result that you're able to basically go into a version of the Chrome browser just to learn a little bit more info, as you can tell there. You can just click to see, for example, what is the holiday today, and if we actually tap on some of these links, you are able to trigger a light version of the browser to pop up. It's not going to be the fastest thing in the world, but it does still work. And just like on any other Android tablet or smartphone, it does have a multi-touch support as well. For the touchscreen, you can zoom in and out just by pinching in with your fingers. Here's another example of browsing The Verge, a more complex page. You can do this while listening to music and streaming in the background, by the way, such as on YouTube Music. So it has a little bit of multitasking capability. Now here you can tell that, again, the processing power inside is definitely not going to be as advanced as, again, the Pixel tablet with its Tensor chip. So animations which are heavier and video elements will take significantly longer to load back. We can also try something like, hey Google, play back YouTube videos for gadget reviews.
Got it. Playing back YouTube videos for gadget videos on YouTube.
And it will find a certain kind of category or genre and then begin playing it back. If you're not super picky about the specific content that you are looking for, and instead you are trying to find a general category, for example, health, travel, vlog, something like that, you can just command it using your voice. We can also take a look at stories. So as long as your content is synced over again with your Google account in this particular way, you're able to use it for audiobooks, playing it back on these larger speakers as well. That generally works well enough. And here's one more demo of what the speaker sounds like when listening to audio. So overall takeaways, it does have actually surprisingly quite a bit of depth to it. Again, the larger drivers don't sound tinny at all, and bass drum beats actually sound great on the speaker. It's quite loud, especially at a higher volume level. It can fill up a smaller room or space really without any problems at all. Provide me with some recipe recommendations for cooking asparagus.
On the website allrecipes.com, they say, melt butter in a large skillet over medium heat. Add asparagus spears and garlic. Cover and cook until it's...
So there we have it. There's some other kind of cooking examples as well.
Here is some information from the web that might possibly help. Here's a summary from the website loveandlemons.com. 1. Tomato, basil, and artichoke picnic sandwich.
So there's a quick idea. So when it finds available content, it will try to summarize it in a bullet point format on the display. As far as the sleep tracking accuracy is concerned, I would say it's surprisingly not bad. The total hours slept was oftentimes reported as a difference of less than 30 minutes, and this tends to be a bit more conservative. So it tends to state that you've fallen asleep maybe a little bit later compared to on a watch. That being said, once it does start to count sleep, the stages of sleep is actually done in a fairly consistent way compared to a smartwatch. You can tap inside to learn a little bit more details, including not just hours sleep, but also stages of sleep. And you can swipe over to the right to take a closer look at some recommendations, whether you've been sleeping too early or too late, and also broken into a more granular chart of REM, light, snoring, coughing, and other sounds, again using the built-in microphone. You can tap on a tab here to show you a bit more info of what averages consist of and how your data there kind of compares. Similar to on their Pixel smartphones, not everything is 100% perfect. For example, there's often a tile that's recommending a video of telling you why sleep matters, but if you tap on some of these tiles, oftentimes you'll see a message pop up that says this video is unavailable, or it takes a pretty long time and nothing really loads back up. So these are areas where, as a software company, I do think something like this has room for improvement, but because it is just connected over the cloud, one can hope that with continuous updates, some of those minor quirks will be ironed out. Another slight quirk is it works best in single languages, including English. But if you are someone that speaks multiple languages, let's say Spanish, as well as perhaps French, Mandarin, Chinese, something like that, and you're trying to talk to it or have it play back global music by switching into a second language, it may not always recognize it. So just keep that in mind. It primarily emphasizes a single default language. There it is, essentially a closer look at the Google Nest Hub 2nd generation smart display. Especially when it goes on sale for sub $70, you are getting a very nice sounding speaker as well as a Chromecast smart display that integrates well with the Google ecosystem if you're currently an Android smartphone user, from reminders as well as news information, songs, podcasts, audiobooks. It all connects quite well in addition to smart home appliances that you can tap and control. You can learn more details if interested in the links down below. Actually quite a practical value, I would say, if you're looking for a smart assistant / speaker and you are within the Google ecosystem. That has been the Nest Hub 2nd generation model.